You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Good morning, it's February 26th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, we have Cindy, and it's almost like we want to say goodbye to February.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, 2 more days, and then it's March.
March, exactly. Yeah. Boy, it's the 6th of the year already gone by.
Craziness.
It is. So how was your time away?
It was good. I mean, I was up in your neck of the woods. I went up to Toronto. So enjoyed some cannabis stuff going on up there. Got to see a couple of the boardroom lounges. Matter of fact, I was in all of them. And I ended up going to the comedy club by the boardroom because they have down on St. Clair, their boardroom down there is also a comedy club.
Yeah.
Which was like, if you're in Toronto and you need a place to go have a puff, the boardroom is amazing. And if you are there during one of their comedy events, which I think are every Saturday night, the boardroom down on St. Clair hosts them. And what an amazing spot. The only issue that I had with the whole place is that there was no ventilation. So 50 of us hotboxed a room together. It was pretty epic. Yeah, didn't need to light a joint. I just inhaled everybody else's. So,
yeah, well, you know, there are places now that will fine or possibly jail you for excessive smoke.
Yes. Thank God Toronto was not one of them, because we all would have been jailed.
I think that was Massachusetts that has that going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a good time. I got up to Niagara Falls for a day. You know, I got to see the falls in the winter and, you know, visit the Hard Rock Cafe in Niagara Falls.
And you did this ride. You're telling me before we went live, you did this ride while you were there?
Yeah, there's these new things that are take flight rides, you know, kind of sort of. When I was out in Vancouver, I almost did they had fly over Italy and fly over Vancouver. And I was going to go to those and just didn't find the time. But I had the chance to do the fly over Niagara. And so you're in a chair and like there's a row of chairs and you sit down and like it's, you know, on a machine. So it's almost like a ride. So the chairs get picked up and turned around and then you're surrounded by screens. And I got a tour of Niagara for this one. So it's almost like being on a roller coaster and your seats are moving and doing crazy things. And you get to see the whole place, both in winter and in summer, what it would look like. And the virtual reality aspect of it comes with, you know, like they have water spray that comes out when you're near the falls, or if they're taking you over the flowers, you smell the flowers. And so it was very, very realistic. It was very cool. You know, and even though I knew I was on a chair and I was holding on for dear life because like it felt like you were on a ride, right? Going back and forth. It was crazy. I highly recommend it. If you ever get a chance to these.
Good. All right. Well, thanks for the update on how your weekend was. So I think it's time for us to get on with the news.
Absolutely. Our first story today is coming to us from StratCan. Here in Nova Scotia, introduces a bill to strengthen cannabis enforcement. And I just realized that I need to go over here and scroll down a little bit so y'all can see the headline. Here at home in Atlantic Canada, the Nova Scotia government has introduced new legislation aimed at tightening cannabis enforcement, and it's already sparking conversation across both industry and consumer communities. Oh, yes. According to StratCan, the proposed bill would expand enforcement powers related to legacy gray area market cannabis sales, particularly targeting unlicensed storefronts and online sellers operating outside the province's regulated system. Officials say that the goal is straightforward: protect the legal market, of course, and ensure products sold to Nova Scotians meet safety and quality standards. Well, I could go on about that, but I'll just read my story. Provincial, I know you're laughing back there, Al. Provincial representatives argue that while legalization created a regulated pathway for cannabis sales, illegal operators continue to compete with licensed businesses by avoiding taxes, testing requirements, and retail regulations. One government statement emphasized that enforcement updates are meant to support compliant businesses while addressing ongoing illicit activities. Support compliant businesses while addressing ongoing illicit activities. The legislation would allow stronger penalties and clearer authority for inspectors and enforcement officers investigating unauthorized cannabis distribution. Supporters say this levels the playing field for legal retailers who must follow strict provincial rules through the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation system. However, critics note that enforcement-heavy approaches raise familiar questions from the pre-legalization era. Some industry observers argue that persistent illicit markets often reflect pricing issues, limited retail access, or consumer preference rather than simply criminal intent. The move highlights ongoing reality across Canada. Nearly 8 years after legalization, cannabis policies still evolving. Governments are now shifting from legalization rollout towards long-term market stabilization, trying to balance public safety, economic opportunity, and consumer demand. As this bill moves through the legislative process, Nova Scotia may become another testing ground for how provinces refine cannabis regulation in the post-legalization era. One of the things, Al, we talked about this before we got going today, that they're trying to do is put more of a strong arm on the landlords here in Nova Scotia.
Yes.
Charge the landlords as well as charging the people running the business. Because right now here in Nova Scotia, landlords aren't affected. They're threatened to be affected, but they're not. And we watch this here, like I can focus on the pharmacist dispensary that we had for years. And the RCMP tried to strong arm the landlord of that building to kick them out. And the landlord said, I'm not responsible for the business, and they pay their rent. They're very respectful. They're very good, and I'm not kicking them out.
Yeah, I know that Ontario has it because of situations in Toronto over the years. BC has those types of laws. So I just assumed that was almost like straight across the country, but apparently it's not. Now I also see here in the report, it mentions that when it comes to storefronts, a recent report shows that there are twice as many illegal stores versus legal stores. Why wouldn't the province up that?
Yeah, the province here in Nova Scotia is weird. Like, we've always been behind the 8 ball with everybody when it comes to any of this stuff. Like, I mean, whether it's our storefronts, our cannabis is in our liquor stores. We have one store that's a standalone store, but it's surrounded by 3 booze stores. Right. And the illicit market, the indigenous market, whatever you want to call it, the gray market, the legacy market, is offering this medicine, this cannabis, this plant, where you can just walk in and you're just surrounded by plant. Yeah, exactly. And they are, they are in a lot of spots where the liquor store doesn't have a cannabis store. We only have 51 stores here in Nova Scotia.
That's what the report says, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's like a street in Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. My Airbnb, like 2 brand new stores opened in the 5 days I was there around me.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. So then, that might help. People are obviously voting with their feet and their money, going to the other stores. So.
And these stores do pay taxes, like they are running legitimate businesses where they may not tell the government everything that they're selling, but they pay their taxes. They give money back to the communities. What I stopped myself from saying when I was reading there is, they want to make sure Nova Scotians get good, reliable cannabis. Well, I was injured by the cannabis that you sold me at one point in time. So,
and was for the all those years, centuries going before legalization, I didn't see the hospitals lined up with a bunch of sick people.
No, I never went for medical help for like cannabis issues until I got injured by bad cannabis that was approved by the government.
Yeah. So, alrighty, time for us to move on to the next story. This one is coming to us from the International Cannabis Business Conference. Headline says German cannabis prescriptions increased 3,300% from 2024 to 2025. Now, Germany's emerging legal cannabis industry is booming, which is no secret. However, recent reporting by Investing News Network is shedding news insight and helping quantify just how historic the rate of growth is. It says here that Germany's medical cannabis market exploded in 2025 with prescriptions surging 3,300% from March 24 to December 2025, according to Bloomwell Group's Cannabis Barometer. Now, they reported Investing News Network in its original coverage. Now, that's according to Nicholas Campbellford and Julian Wichmann, co-founders of the Bloomwell Group. Now, that's a Frankfurt-based cannabis company that operates Germany's largest digital platform for medical cannabis. And they say, as someone who has been involved in Germany's medical cannabis movement since its earliest days, it's incredibly encouraging to see how far we've come in short time, according to the spokesperson. Now, this the exponential growth, or the huge growth in medicinal cannabis prescriptions in Germany during the specified time period is paralleled by dramatic growth in medical cannabis imports. Now, during the first quarter of 2024, Germany's medical cannabis industry imported just over 8 tons of products from other countries. And that jumped to nearly 57 tons in the third quarter of 2025, which is the most recent period reported by the Germany's Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. 3,300% jump in medical access. Like, it's just crazy. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And look at all the cannabis that they're importing.
Yeah, tons
of it.
Germany's medical cannabis market was valued at over 2 billion euro in 2025, serving 800,000 patients. And they're averaging, what did it say over here before I close the story? €5.20 per gram.
€5 per gram,
which is about $11 here.
Yeah, $10. Yeah, for sure. That's about what it is here, is it not? At the stores,
depending on the stores. I mean, anywhere between. I can go get I can go get a rolled gram joint up at the liquor store for I think it's like $6.95. That's rolled in a cone, right?
Yeah. Okay, Germany's exploding.
It's pretty awesome.
Awesome, exactly. All right, time to move on.
Yeah, on to our next story, coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference. The story is Cannabis shows comparable efficacy to lorazepam. I think that's pretty cool. New clinical research is adding to the growing conversation around cannabis as a potential therapeutic alternative for anxiety treatment. A report highlighted by International Cannabis Business Conference describes a clinical trial in which cannabis demonstrated effects comparable to lorazepam, a commonly prescribed anti-anxiety medication belonging to the benzo family. Lorazepam is widely used for acute anxiety and panic disorders, but it also carries very known risks, including dependency, sedation, and major withdrawal challenges. Researchers conducting the study explored whether controlled cannabis formulations could provide similar symptom relief while potentially offering a different safety profile. According to the findings, participants receiving cannabis-based treatment experienced anxiety reduction outcome similar to those taking lorazepam during the trial period. Researchers emphasize that dosing, cannabinoid composition, and medical supervision were critical factors in achieving these results. One researcher noted that the findings suggest cannabis may represent a viable therapeutic option deserving further rigorous investigation, though they cautioned that more large-scale studies, of course, are all still needed before widespread clinical substitution could be recommended. Importantly, the study does not suggest patients replace prescribed medications on their own. Instead, it contributes to a growing scientific effort examining whether cannabinoid therapies could complement or eventually reduce reliance on certain pharmaceuticals. There are many of us out there who did just that and are off the pharmaceuticals. I am one. As mental health treatment conditions do involve, studies like this reflect a broader shift in medicine, moving towards personalized approaches that consider multiple therapeutic tools, including plant-based compounds, once excluded from the mainstream research. For clinicians, regulators, and patients alike, the question is no longer whether cannabis has medical potential, but how best to integrate it safely and responsibly into modern care. And I agree with that. Like, I am one who walked away from pharmaceuticals. I did do it under a doctor's supervision. We learned the cannabis medical side together, and got me off of everything that I was on. So I only need to take it now if I'm like having a surgery or if I need an antibiotic. I mean, like I'm, and as many of us are like, I mean, you never got hooked up into the pharmaceuticals, but you use cannabis instead of pharmaceuticals, and the efficacy of them. So it's nice to see them doing the study.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I chose cannabis over opioids. Just only had to have them while I was in the hospital. Now, I was going through the story here, and two things I wanted to mention. The first one was you mentioned about the side effects of lorazepam. And I see here it mentions life-threatening breathing problems, drowsiness, or coma if used along with certain medications.
Seizure as well.
Yeah. I'm going, what? And they say that the investigators found that medical cannabis use was associated with improved outcomes across multiple metrics. This includes better reported sleep quality, a reduction in reported anxiety, as you mentioned, improved health-related quality of life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If I think of the quality of my life when I was on all of those medicines, Ativan, benzos being two of them actually, because I was on Ativan and clonazepam. I mean, I didn't have a life. Like, like in the 24-hour day, I would sleep at least 18 hours, if not more. And then the rest of the time that I was awake, I was very much no life.
To compare the side effects, the reported side effects from people there was a couple of people who dropped out, and they said the reported side effects, the worst ones were dry mouth and fatigue.
That's why I always have a bottle of water.
Yeah, I always have water right there. Well, we do a lot of reading too. So yeah. All righty. On to our next story. This one I have to get ready and bring up before I do that. And then we're going to go to break. I was too busy reading your story to do that. But I got it ready now. So here we go.
Here we go.
This one's coming to me from Marijuana Moment. American support for legalizing psychedelics is where marijuana was in the 1990s before state reforms, according to the polls. Now, support for legalizing the use of psychedelics might relatively be low today, according to the new survey from RAND Corporation, but public opinion on the issue seems to be closely following in the footsteps of cannabis reform movement before the first states started enacting cannabis legalization. As more states and localities, as well as Congress, see momentum around psychedelic reform, the poll that was released on Thursday shows that Americans are currently feeling relatively tepid about the prospects of expanding access to hallucinogenic substances. However, there's reason to believe that could change dramatically in the years to come if cannabis-related polling is any indication. For now, just 23% of respondents said that psilocybin mushrooms should be legal, and even fewer, that's around 10%, expressed support for legalizing LSD or MDMA. By contrast, RAND's data reaffirms that there's a strong majority support, that's at 65%, for the legalization of cannabis. Of course, it's relatively early for the push for psychedelics reform, and a look at the public opinion trajectory for cannabis may offer a window into what's to come. Support for the legal use of psilocybin mushrooms is similar to what it was in the mid-1990s, just before the state medical cannabis laws started to implement, according to this poll, which the author's adding that it's unclear whether psilocybin will follow a similar trajectory in terms of public opinion or policy challenges or changes. The think tank said that there are some reasons that could explain the trend. For example, one could also better understand the current sentiment towards psychedelics in the context of how opinions have shifted around same-sex marriage. Support for legalizing psilocybin was high, 62%, among those who have used psychedelics. Similarly, 80% of the adults who have used cannabis are in favor of the plant's legalization. Now, only 42% of those who support the legal use of psilocybin say that adults should be able to use them for any reason, while 56% it says it should be allowed for medical purposes. Overall, just over 10% of respondents said psilocybin should be allowed for any use. And for LSD and MDMA, that percentage drops to under 10%. And support for the medical use of the three psychedelics is all under 30% for the general public. There you go, Cindy. Got a bit of an idea of how people are feeling about psychedelics and the use of them. There's some good news in there, and some news that, the numbers are low. I thought it might have been a little bit higher, but as more information is coming out, I'm sure those numbers will grow.
I hope so. Like, I'm a little shocked that some of them are under 10%.
Yeah,
but I like that at least the people that are using it are supporting it.
correct.
For the majority of them, because they understand that it's like the beautiful medicines. And
and when they compared it to people who use cannabis, thinking of it as legalization, the numbers, it's like 15% difference.
Yeah,
it's not a dramatic 50% difference.
Yeah,
right. So that's good to see. But and I imagine they do another survey like that down the road in a few years, just like with the cannabis issue. Obviously, the numbers will be going up. So.
Yep.
All right. What do you say? Time to take a break?
Time to take a break.
All right. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We will be back in about 3 minutes.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs, and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
We're back, we're live, and we got 4 more stories to go, right, Cindy?
We do, yeah.
All right, and you've got the first one.
I do. The next story is coming to us from StratCan. There was a U.S. musician who was denied entry into Canada because of for cannabis trafficking charges. Denied entry into Canada. It totally got me. Despite cannabis being legal nationwide, Canada's border policies continue to create complications for international travelers, including performers and touring artists. StratCan reports that a U.S. musician was recently denied entry into Canada due to past cannabis trafficking charges in the United States, highlighting an often misunderstood reality. Legalization does not overcome immigration law. Canadian border officials retain broad discretion to deny entry to individuals with certain criminal records, even those offenses involve substances that are now legal within Canada itself. Immigration rules classify trafficking offenses as serious criminality, which can trigger automatic inadmissibility. The situation has become increasingly common for entertainers, athletes, and industry workers whose past cannabis-related convictions date back to Prohibition-era enforcement in the United States. Ironically, individuals connected to a now legal industry can still face barriers crossing the border. Legal experts quoted the article explain that travelers with prior convictions may need to apply for special authorization, such as criminal rehabilitation status or temporary resident permits, before attempting entry into Canada. The case serves as a reminder that cannabis legalization operates with national frameworks, and international travel remains governed by separate legal standards. As cross-border cannabis commerce and culture exchange grow, pressure continues to mount for clearer policies that reflect changing laws on both sides of the border. For now, the message from immigration authorities remains clear. Legalization at home does not erase historical criminal records abroad. And just so we know, the musician was a country musician by the name of Charlie Crockett. Someday, Al, someday, if they ever legalize, someday we're we're going to be able to, like, take a day trip while I'm in Toronto and go, hey, I want to go visit Detroit, and just kind of take my doobies in my pocket and run off and visit Detroit and not have to worry. Or vice versa. Detroit can come visit Toronto, right?
Yeah. Well, we can go across the border with our prescriptions, but you got to claim your alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
Now, as far as us headed their direction, just because I wrote articles about cannabis, that would make me ineligible.
Yeah.
To go into the U.S. And they say that where is it? Right here? They say just simply admitting to have used cannabis in the past won't allow you into the U.S. Yeah, and this fella here, I wasn't surprised because I know of a guy. This was years ago, back in the TY Expo days. One of the musicians that were supposed to appear at it got turned around at the border because he had an impaired driving charge in the past.
Wow. Apparently, this is the second time that's happened to this particular artist trying to come to Canada. So I don't know all the details, but I assume he tried and then did a bunch of stuff and then tried again. Did a bunch of stuff and tried and was denied a second time. So
and it was 2 different points of entry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it was testing the limits because it could get to the point where he could be arrested for it. So,
yep.
All right. From that, move on to a report from Health Canada in our next story. Here we go. And this is coming to us from StratCan. Headline there, as you can see, says Health Canada provides an update on cannabis sampling rules for producers. Now, Health Canada is reminding cannabis production license holders of the requirements for engaging in activities with cannabis samples, focusing on storage, distribution, documentation, and personnel. Now, all cannabis used for the purpose of providing samples to cannabis retailers must be stored at the site specified in the license. Storage is not permitted at any location other than the licensed site or at a dwelling house, including permanent or temporary residences. Cannabis in transit is allowed to be temporarily held at other locations, such as third-party logistics providers, example, couriers and post office boxes, warehouses, or in secured vehicles, such as a transport truck, as part of the documented distribution plan. Now, this period must be limited to what is necessary to reach the final destination. It can never be at a dwelling house or for an indefinite period of time. Now, license holders can only give away cannabis, including samples, to someone who is authorized to produce, sell, or distribute cannabis. For examples, given away at events, it is the license holder's responsibility to ensure that they are only provided to authorized individuals, not the general public. The license holders that they must, the federal cannabis regulators also reminds license holders that they must use appropriate security measures and access controls to limit risks of the products being diverted and ensure that the safekeeping of cannabis during distribution. This includes regular audits, access restrictions, and tracking procedures. License holders are required to maintain records and processes to demonstrate compliance, especially for giving cannabis samples. These records need to ensure traceability, including the recipient's name and address, enable a rapid and complete recall, and be available for audit in a timely manner. While federal regulations allow producers to provide samples to retailers, provinces ultimately have the final say on whether retailers can accept them. While several provinces, including Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, have such activities, including at industry events, others don't have it. I don't know about you, Cindy, but it must be hard to track who the address and the person of every sample that you give out.
Yeah, well, I think like in Ontario, they try to do that with, like if the person has CanSell, that's what they want. Like, like when you go to like
CanSell license.
Yeah. So like you have to give your number.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's a way to track it without having to take all of that. So in Nova Scotia, I've been to 3 events. Now they were more privatized. So like I'm a veteran. So they were veteran events actually. And, we show up and, there's a table full of samples there and we're invited to take them and try them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's legal. But that, I've had that happen here 3 times at veterans events.
Yeah. I got my cancel and I got samples once, but I can't recall giving my number, but I don't know.
Yeah. I know that while I was in Toronto, a mutual friend of ours went to a legal event. I never asked her what it was, but on a Friday night, she went to a legal event and, or was it a Saturday afternoon? And I saw her Saturday night and she had this bag full of samples, right? Infused joints and this and that. But she has her cancel, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know how that's happening. I don't know where all the events are. I would have loved to have gone to that event while I was in Ontario because that sounded like it would have been a blast.
As it mentioned in the article, it's supposed to be going to the people who are working in the industry, not the general public. And even though that people can have a cancel, doesn't mean that I'm working in the industry.
Yeah. I got my cancel. So if I'm in Ontario and I go to an event, I have a number so I can get the samples. But I don't even live in Ontario. But as long as I have that cancel, so I can get my samples while I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they would open that up to the public though. Like I've been at events where you can put a little bit, give a donation for a sample of some wine. It comes in just a little shot glass.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could go on wine tasting tours and
why not a gummy? Why not gummies, anything like that, or a cannabis beverage instead of the wine.
Yep.
No reason why it couldn't be done.
Yep.
All righty.
Right. I'm up. On to the next story. This one is coming to us from Ganjapreneur. It's a study which shows a single dose of DMT can reduce depression symptoms. New psychedelic research is drawing attention for its striking findings involving one of the most powerful natural occurring psychedelic compounds, DMT. According to Ganjapreneur, a recent study found that a single controlled dose of DMT was associated with significant reduction in symptom of depression among study participants. Researchers observed improvements occurring rapidly after treatment, adding to a growing body of evidence suggesting psychedelic therapies may work differently from traditional antidepressants. Unlike conventional medicines that often require daily dosing and weeks before noticeable effects, psychedelic assisted therapies are being investigated for their ability to produce meaningful psychological shifts after only one or a few supervised sessions. Researchers believe DMT may temporarily increase neural connectivity and cognitive flexibility, sometimes described as allowing the brain to reset entrenched patterns associated with depression. Participants in the study reported lasting mood improvements following guided therapeutic experiences. One researcher explained that psychedelic compounds appear to help patients access emotional processing in ways that standard treatments may not always reach, though scientists stress that these outcomes occur in carefully controlled clinical environments with preparation and integration support. Experts caution that DMT remains a powerful substance and is not appropriate for unsupervised use. Still, studies like this continue fueling international interest in psychedelic medicine as researchers search for new approaches to treatment-resistant mental health conditions. As clinical trials expand worldwide, psychedelic science is increasingly moving from the margins towards mainstream psychiatric research, reshaping conversations about how depression may be treated in the future. As somebody who has suffered with depression, post-traumatic stress, and who has used some psychedelics to help heal that, I know that they're beautiful medicines that can help people who are suffering without all the side effects of the benzos that we talked about earlier, or any modern antidepressant, as the article said, that can take weeks to use to become noticeable in the difference, and you have to take it every day. And for a lot of them, it's multiple times a day. It's 3 to 5 doses per day, and they don't always work, and then you're addicted.
In the article, it mentions that, as you said, the rapid onset, so it works rather quickly, but that one dose can last 6 months
or longer.
Or longer. Like instead of taking something a couple times a day or once a day, like once every 6 months.
Yep. And some people need it once. They do their integration and they don't feel the need to come back and do the medicines. So some people walk in and do, Bufo or DMT or even a big dose of psilocybin once. And that gives them that neuroplasticity to reset their brain and move forward. And they never need to come back to it. And some people, need it every 6 months or every 4 months. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it more than every 4 months because of the way of what it does to the brain. It turns you into turns the brain to neuroplastic, where you can make differences and make changes. And you want to give yourself some time to take the medicine, do the integration, let your brain settle before you go back into medicine. It's not like, let's keep pounding it at it. My hope as a facilitator is that you come see me for however long you see me, and then I never see you again.
See you again. Yeah, it's not about bringing you back constantly for services. It's about healing.
Yeah, permanent healing, whereas you don't need somebody like me to always be there for, dosing and psychedelic purposes, right?
All righty. Last story of the day. Here we go. This one's coming to us from Marijuana Moment. And the headline on that says, Trump missed an opportunity to promote marijuana rescheduling during State of the Union, according to the industry leader says. Now, President Donald Trump delivered a lengthy State of the Union address on Tuesday, touching on a wide range of policy issues he's championed in the first year of his second term. But to the disappointment of advocates and stakeholders, the president did not take the primetime opportunity to promote his work around cannabis rescheduling. Despite the bipartisan popularity of cannabis reform, he declined to mention a December executive order he issued directing Attorney General Pam Bondi to expeditiously complete the process of moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. That hasn't happened yet, and the Justice Department has been largely silent on the issue in the weeks since Trump signed the order. Some hoped that the president would use the high-profile speech before a joint session of Congress to retaliate his directive to finalize the rulemaking, but the issue was ignored altogether. Now, Adam Rosenberg, chairman of the National Cannabis Industry Association, said after the speech that the State of the Union represented a missed opportunity to highlight a major gap between federal policy and state law. Nearly every state has legalized cannabis in some form, yet federal laws continue to create uncertainty for legitimate operators. The industry has heard promises before, including support for rescheduling. What's missing is delivery, he says. He goes on to say that federal inaction continues to push state legal businesses with punitive tax treatment and banking barriers while the illicit market operates without consequences. That imbalance is unsustainable. Now, ahead of Tuesday's speech, Marijuana Moment asked the White House whether the president planned to bring up cannabis rescheduling, but a spokesperson simply pointed to a statement from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, that generally described Trump's intent to discuss the administration's many record-breaking accomplishments and his ambitious agenda to continue bringing the American dream back for working people. Now, a DOJ spokesperson told Marijuana Moment last month, meanwhile, that it had no comment or updates to share on the topic. However, an agency official more recently told Salon that the DOJ is working to identify the most expeditious means of executing the EO, which is the executive order. But that paraphrasing is notable, signaling that the department is uncertain about the administrative pathway to finalize rescheduling. Now, the Justice Department's relative silence on the issue has left some wondering if the agency is aligned with the White House, which last month separately touted the president's order as an example of a policy achievement during the first year of his second term. Meanwhile, the White House drug czar recently said that while he loves Trump and almost everything he does, the affection doesn't extend to the pending proposal to federally reschedule cannabis, which he described as a gateway drug that's harming youth. Yeah. I saw the headline this morning. I thought, yeah, I caught a little bit of that State of the Union address, but the stuff I heard, I didn't hear anything about cannabis, and obviously he didn't bring it up. And it is a missed opportunity. It's something that, you're looking at 70% of the country wants. It's legalized medically in 40 states. Recreationally, it's somewhere around 25 states where it's legal. Bringing that up might have been,
Yeah. Over half of his country are sitting in legal states.
Yeah.
3/4 of his country are sitting in medical legal states.
Yeah.
And he's just ignoring them.
And the industries, it has been supporting him, from the reports that I've read. Some of the businesses have been. But silence.
Silence.
Sometimes they say silence speaks volumes.
Oh, it sure does.
Yeah. And it's been over 2 months since he signed the executive order, and there's nothing happening.
Yeah, and he's completely ignoring it himself.
Yeah. So I don't know. All right. Well, that's it for news-wise. Anything else before we say goodbye and we sign off?
Oh, one more thing. Tomorrow night, the Nova Scotia Psychedelics Society, myself and another board member or two are putting on a social here in Halifax. The Nova Scotia Psychedelics Society, come on down. Let's talk psychedelics. If you're interested in building a psychedelic community, curious about psychedelics, come on down and join us. Bring a little snack. We have a little table where we have, it's kind of a potluck thing. I love to bring the 2-bite brownies myself. It's tomorrow night from 7 to 9 p.m. at 1084 Tower Road. And that is the Halifax Shambhala Center. So I really hope to see you there. It's usually a really good time. And tomorrow night will just be about sharing stories of our own journeys and what psychedelics mean to us. And, maybe even educating a few people that show up with those stories. It's usually a very good time. We usually at least have a few newbies along with some people who are seasoned. I invite you down to the Halifax Shambhala Center for the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society's, psychedelic social and potluck. I really hope to see you there if you're in the area.
Patience teaching patience.
Patience teaching patience. Yeah, and that's been the basis of your network since you started it. Patients teaching patients, patients sharing their stories and helping each other. And it was all about cannabis when you started. And I feel very blessed that you've invited psychedelics into that.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Patients helping patients and educating them and sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Well, thanks for the kind words. And other than that, that's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. We will be back Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And other than that, thanks to the viewers and thanks to Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And yes, I got my order in. Thanks, Pierre. And also thanks to the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, as well as At-Eze.ca. And as I always say, don't forget to educate, medicate, do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.